That's right, he's back with another bottle of wine here in the Kiwi Studio. Wine tastings, and also today beer tastings as well. Jason Bryant, winevaulttv.com. How you
Good
doing?
morning. The luckiest guy in Auckland right now, I think you are.
I did what I felt pretty lucky last night.
Yeah.
For those just catching up on the story, I'll just tell it very briefly. Was going to do AC/DC on the cheap by sitting in the park next door. Sitting on the blanket there with my girlfriend, and we were just about to enjoy whatever we could hear coming out of the concert. A couple of ladies, I'll call them ladies now. I've been calling them birds all morning.
Yeah, I know.
Couple of boods come up. A couple of ladies come up. Look like there's something outrageous fortune. Just real true Westies. Lovely girls come up and say, "Look, my husband's an arsehole. Have you these?" And hands over a couple of tickets.
I think that is so cool.
And they walked off in the opposite direction. They were off. They were out of here. They were not going to go to the gig. We had
going
their
to the
tickets. They're off to the pub, probably.
That's right.
and,
Bad date with the boyfriend or husband.
and then we were watching AC/DC. But you also had your own AC/DC experience.
Yeah, we just live right across the road from Western Springs, so we heard word for word. And although I've got to say, it wasn't that loud for us. No, the wind was blowing in the wrong direction, so it really took it across Mount Eden, Mount Albert, and like David Cosgrove and a few other people.
I could hear Shehard from Mount Albert.
Yeah, and a lot of people were saying that they heard it word for word over there, and but it wasn't. I could hear it word for word, but it wasn't actually that loud. It's just like having them on the radio.
Right.
So I nipped across the road, whipped out my phone, took a little bit of video, but I've got to say that I'm very surprised in myself that I knew most of the words to the songs, and it must all be kind of through osmosis.
Yeah.
That
You just know it. Even though you might not even know an album, but you know it.
And Justin Brown said to me, "I dare you to go outside and play Celine Dion or something like that,
No.
really loudly."
Not cool.
But I didn't have any of those records, so I asked to borrow his collection. And he then went, I don't have any either. But I've got to say, a great night.
Yeah.
Really, really good night.
Wasn't it?
And the crowd, this was my fear living where I live, is that they get a bit unruly and kind of like there's a load of beer and stuff like that, and windows get smashed. And
It's all looks.
it was, and they were really, really well behaved. I was most impressed with the Auckland crowd last night.
Yeah.
I think this was the average age was 50. They've got past that teenage kind of angst.
That helps, eh?
Yeah.
It always helps when the chaps on stage are getting on a bit as well.
Yeah. When they put out their Zimmer frames and go, oh, yeah. And you know you're in for a fairly peaceful night. It may end late, because they've taken something to keep them up.
Certainly didn't sound peaceful, man. What a sound.
Yeah, it was. I've got to say, it was really good. It sounded fun, and living vicariously through that crowd when they were cheering really brought a bit of kind of like happiness to me.
Yeah.
It was so nice to hear people cheering.
So to celebrate this morning, before we get on to the wine of the day, I thought I'd bring in one of my home brews.
I'm pretty pleased about this because
It's got to fit in with the AC/DC thing.
Yeah, exactly. Westie plastic bottle too.
Now, this is my second one. I put it to bed, I suppose you'd call it, a couple of weeks before Christmas. This is the a wheat beer.
Yeah.
A European style wheat beer.
German,
I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Weiss beer.
They do Weiss beer as well, but no, this is just a wheat beer.
I'll pour a glass.
I was just saying to Whammo earlier that one of the biggest influences in wine and beer is yeast strain, and getting the cultured yeast that actually suits rather than the generic.
No, unfortunately, it's been the scooter this morning, so it's shaken up. So
you
there's a
will
bit
get
of sediment.
this quite naturally in normal wheat beers. But the yeast strain has a major influence over the style and taste of a wine and beer, and you get a much more expressive wine if you use indigenous or natural yeast or wild yeast to ferment, because it's the yeast that's in the environment where you're fermenting the grapes, and so you don't add any yeast strain. And in Sauvignon Blanc, it's pretty much all that matters.
Okay.
That's why when we developed these yeast strains and we took them to Chile, they're now making Marlborough-style Sauvignon Blanc because the yeast strains we've cultured. And so it's quite a double-edged sword for Marlborough, because they can take it to Chile. Labour costs a lot lower over there. They haven't got any phylloxera. Vines are cheaper.
Yeah.
And so they can produce Marlborough-style Sauvignon Blanc for a quarter to half the price.
Interesting. And it's also interesting that I had no idea that yeast. I thought yeast was kind of a generic thing. I had no idea that it could really alter the taste. Now, one thing you might notice straight away is that there's not a lot of bubbles going on, and I'm not sure I got the sugars at the end.
Yeah,
the amount of sugars quite right, but
you won't. In most wheat beers, you don't get a hell of a lot of excitement, like bubble-wise, in your glass. But you do possibly get a bit more than this. But it's the flavour that...
I got more bubbles out of my first batch.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think there was more accurate measurement going on. It was a bit ad hoc, maybe.
You'd made this after drinking your first batch.
Yeah, possibly. What do you think?
I like it. I could quite happily sit on a Sunday afternoon drinking this.
Yeah.
It's not as heavy as I thought it was going to be.
Right.
That's one of the things I thought it was going to be, quite heavy, and it's actually really kind of palate cleansing. It's got a zinginess to it.
It just very much the after. It's a bit a little bit floral. I don't know. It's not just the first mouthful. There's not a whole lot to it, but it's a little bit in the after. It's just a little bit of...
There's a little kick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I think that a bit more accurate measurement and getting a bit more kind of effervescence in there.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be fantastic.
Cool.
I think you've got a bright future.
Thank you. Thank you, son.
I do. Are you pleased with it? Because that's the main thing.
I am pleased with it. I wasn't sure 3 weeks after when I tasted it. I thought, oh, this is not as good as my first. How can I go downhill from my first? But another 3-4 weeks on,
because it's a different style, isn't it?
Yeah,
you're just learning.
Yeah,
you're just like Karate Kid.
Next up, a cerveza, a Mexican style.
Yeah, like what do you call it?
Like Corona, Sol, or any of those. And I'm thinking I might experiment with that a little bit and put chilies.
I knew you were going to say that.
You're not into it. Have you not had a chili?
What is it with Kiwis and the desire to change something that's already good?
I love chili beer.
Because I'm gonna this here.
Yeah.
Our wine of the day is Montana Sauvignon Gris, which to most people sounds quite awkward because Pinot Gris drinkers are not necessarily Sauvignon drinkers.
Yeah.
And so trying to hit two markets with Pinot Gris and a Sauvignon drinker and bring them together, I'm not sure is the best marketing move. But Sauvignon Gris is an old grape. It died out pretty much of Bordeaux and quite a lot of France, although there's still some planted in the Loire.
Yep.
It's mainly in Chile, because the missionaries went across to Chile and they don't have any phylloxera. So pre-1856, when phylloxera really kind of dominated it and wiped out the French vineyards, they'd already taken some rootstock and vines across to France, and so that's where you get Sauvignon Gris. So it's an old varietal, although I sometimes wonder whether they've just, with the abundance of Sauvignon Blanc and Pinot Gris, whether they've just kind of mixed it together.
Right.
You know, I'm not going to cast aspersions that this may happen in big industry.
Yeah.
But I'm just not sure whether we're ready for Sauvignon Gris.
Well, we're about to find out, I think.
And exactly. And I'm not sure. It's because Sauvignon Gris is supposed to be less aromatic than Sauvignon Blanc and Pinot Gris, and just a bit kind of more one-dimensional. So I wouldn't have thought that was a characteristic that we're necessarily trying to chase with New Zealand wine.
Well, it's certainly quite a bit on the nose.
And it's like Sauvignon Blanc. There's a bit of cream soda with a bit of kind of lemon and lime there for me.
Yeah.
I used to love cream soda as a kid. Love it. Cream soda and ice cream.
Did you? I used to do that. So go down to the local dairy or whatever you had back in the old country. Whatever they call
news agents.
News agents, is that what they're called? No, because not drugstores, that's American.
Yeah, we call them news agents.
Yeah.
Because they were agents for news. We're a simple folk.
Were they made? Was it made by Golden Circle there as well? It was Golden Circle creaming soda.
No, it was Corona.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Not the beer.
All right, let's get our
Yeah.
That creaminess starts to really come through, and it's very sour. Sour?
It is. It's tart.
Grapefruit.
Exactly. You do get that on the palate. This is not one for Pinot Gris lovers. This is Sauvignon Blanc.
But I quite like my grapefruit. So
I really like grapefruit, but there's too much acid added to this
acid.
wine.
That's it, isn't it? Acid.
Yeah. There's too much acid added to this wine. It's slightly out of balance. There's so much acid in this, you could strip a few things.
Well, that has been another episode of Wine Vault Radio. Jason Bryant, thanks very much.
Thank you, Wemo, Mr. Lucky.
WineVaultTV.com and The Wine Vault on Twitter as well. Until